it's a little weird that these things are percolating to the surface, information about Musk's involvement and Starlink's involvement. And so to that end, Joe Rogan spoke about, who's clearly got a big hand in this. I mean, you can say what you want. Like, he's just, you can view him as a, he's a podcaster, whatever. He is an extremely influential guy, Joe Rogan. And he's talking to another influential guy, and that's Theo Vaughn. And as you know, I thought Kamala Harris should have made the round on those podcasts, although I don't think it would have changed the outcome. But I don't think Democrats should be afraid of those guys. They're not guys to be afraid of. Again, as I said, I believe last week at some point, if you're not afraid of 60 Minutes, you sure as hell shouldn't be afraid of Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. I mean, in 2 hours or whatever length of time in a conversation, it'll feel like people get to know you a bit and probably like you at the end of it. So anyway, on his show, Rogan talks about election night. Go ahead and roll it, please, Tony.
It was interesting because the beginning of the night, no one knew what was going to happen. So you're watching the first results roll in, and there's like this weird thing. And then Trump gets way ahead, but you're like, you don't want to like get too hopeful. Like, how far ahead is he? He's ahead by 100 points. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, and you're like, what is it? And some channels are like, and then every channel's kind of different.
Yeah. They had different numbers. I was getting a different number off my Apple News update than I was getting off of CNN. And then I was texting people like Tulsi and J.D. Vance. I was getting a different up. Apparently, Elon created an app, and he knew who won 4 hours before the results. So as the results were coming in, 4 hours before they called it, Dana White told me, Elon was like, I'm leaving. It's over. Donald won. He just fucking somehow or another.
I'm gonna go back into my pod and evaporate.
I don't know what he's getting, where he's pulling his data from, but he had like the most accurate data in terms of the rural states hadn't put the results in yet, but yet Trump was ahead in these states. Kamala's never going to win those states, so tabulated that and like put it all together. I don't know how he did it. But
yeah,
Dana. I haven't even talked to Elon about this. I don't know like the Dana translation, but Dana said he had an app, and he was like showing him. He's like, it's over. And he fucking left. Dude just left.
It's over. John Jones won. Just saying that.
He just fucking left.
Dude.
All right. So that, again, is odd. It is odd, you'll concede, that Elon Musk would have an app that gains early access to data related to voters, don't you think?
Not one for conspiracy theories, and it makes me uneasy to even question the results of an election. But if you hear that and you think, if that's true, big if, and Elon Musk knew the results 4 hours ahead of time, then he had probably access to that Starlink data. And if he had access to create an app with that data, could he have changed that data?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Again, I just want to reiterate, the way that things are set up, voter machines are generally on private communications. It's set up so that this sort of thing wouldn't be possible. But there is absolutely a drumbeat, and it's getting louder, about Elon Musk. And essentially the notion is he'll stop at nothing to win these races. The other thing, how did Democrats do well in so many states, and yet they voted for Donald Trump? How does Donald Trump win in a state where Democrats down ballot are doing well? And the answer to that may be good old-fashioned ticket splitting. It does happen. You have the North Carolina thing. I'll show you a little bit, give you a preview of that emerging conversation. Here's a bit from North Carolina.
Breaking news in North Carolina, breaking news in the battleground states, and a strange trend I see where practically every statewide Democrat in North Carolina won overwhelmingly, and somehow Donald Trump manages to win. It doesn't make any sense, so just hear me out. Sorry, I'm losing my voice today. But we see Josh Stein, the Democrat, won for governor's race over Mark Robinson by about 800,000 votes. We see in the lieutenant governor's race, We see that a lady, Rachel Hunt, defeated Hal Wethman by 150,000 votes. We see that for Attorney General, we see that Jeff Jackson defeated Dan Bishop. Same thing, another 125,000 votes. We see for the Superintendent of Education, Maurice Green defeated Michelle Morin. Same thing, 2,810,000 to 2,668,000. For the Secretary of State, we see another lady winning statewide, Elaine Marshall, over Chad Brown, and she wins by 120,000 votes. And then we see that Donald Trump somehow manages to win by 189,406 votes. Every other Democrat won statewide. And then this other interesting fact that doesn't make any sense, 356,884 votes were cast for president only, and they voted for not any other single office in North Carolina. Not for governor, lieutenant governor, Democrat, Republican, independent, nobody. What's up with this? This does not make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. What do you think? Does it make sense to you? Elon Musk, were you there? What do you all think? Something doesn't look right. And this trend is throughout all the battleground states. Democrats win statewide, and somehow Kamala Harris loses. Doesn't make sense. And many of them are women winning in these states.
Yeah, that last point isn't completely incidental, right? So it's not like, well, just people won't vote for a woman. He's saying, you know, women are winning in all of these different races statewide, and all of a sudden they punch it for Donald Trump. It is curious. The math ain't mathin', says Kevin.
What we know is that the Republicans took control of the Senate, right? It really looks like they're about to take control of the House and now the executive branch. So they did win, you know, most of their seats.
They win by a sliver. Let's be clear about that.
True.
I mean, the breaking news, and it is significant, is that Donald Trump won the popular vote, but he did win it by a sliver. It was not this overwhelming win. But, I mean, Republicans don't win the popular vote, aside from, you know, the George Bush exception. But Dino Badala, who does a show on Sirius, he said, I'd sincerely recommend that Biden's administration, while Biden has absolute immunity, have his... I'm laughing because that's always Kim's thing. Why doesn't Biden, if he's got absolute immunity, why does he go down to Mar-a-Lago and storm in? And, you know, it's got that. She's always got a plan. Because
if democracy is really at risk, take the opportunity to save America. Use your immunity.
I would sincerely recommend, while Biden has absolute immunity, that he has his DHS work with state officials to examine the election results in key states. That would help alleviate concerns that Trump and Elon Musk somehow cheated to win. This investigation needs to conclude well before the electors vote in each state on December 17th to cast their ballots in the Electoral College. So that isn't happening right now, to our knowledge. But I do think some kind of reasonable investigation is just that, reasonable. And I don't know why that can't happen. But it's odd that the right, as represented by Jim Jordan, for example, now feels that this is a free and fair election, yet the last one he said was stolen. So we're confronted with that. He was on CNN.
Election integrity, when you lose and not when you win.
No, I mean, again, as I said before, this election, I think, was the greatest political comeback we've ever seen. I mean, he did something that even Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do, for goodness sake. And the country.
But you think it was a free and fair election?
No. This election, you just interviewed the Latino, I think, restaurant owner or a restaurant worker, and he said he was tired of all the woke stuff. This election was real simple. You had back-to-back administrations. We got something we very seldom get in American history, American politics. Back-to-back administrations now running for the top job, and people could do a direct comparison. And they said, we like what we had under President Trump versus...
But last time around,
we like the safe streets versus the record
last
crime.
time around, your leader claimed that there were problems with
secure
fraud.
border versus the open border.
Right, those are policies.
That's what this election was about.
That's totally fair. But last time around, it wasn't so much about the policy differences or the personality differences. There were false claims about election fraud. when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did we
there?
go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe they needed. Maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe
that
the 2024
names?
Do you believe that the 2024 election was free and fair?
I do. I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting that happened. You know, what Pennsylvania had like 2-point-something million mail-in ballots come in without any signature verification, which was required under Pennsylvania statute. So there were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out. But
there was absolutely
the biggest question Democrats need to be asking: what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them. President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names. Turns out when you tell people, oh, you're fascist, racist, deplorable garbage, they don't like that. And then when you use lawfare to go after their candidate, they don't like that either. Well, that's why they came out. So on top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
We're out of time. I just want to say, for the record, that there was no evidence of widespread fraud in 2020. It went through many, many different court cases. And I do think the name calling,
that's what I was concerned about.
The name calling was very strong on the Republican side of the aisle from the former president, and you know that. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to give her some credit. I mean, she kind of does push back on him, which is nice. But look, we know what's going on, you know, which is why because Democrats always play between the lines and are very concerned about the institutions of governments and a government not breaking anything. They don't really want to make a big deal out of the fact that there might be some irregularities in this election that did or did not exist in the last one, because they so poo-pooed irregularities being mentioned in the last election. And it's fair what she says. They were not just irregularities that were mentioned, they were litigated. I mean, they brought them to courts around the country with no evidence. They were unable to move it. You couldn't have spent more time and money and political capital on that issue, and they were never able to really bring it with evidence. In this case, might there be some evidence? Might there be some fragments on this particular election?
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.